You ever wonder why exercise is so hard? Or easy, depending on who you ask. But I think it's safe to say, for most, the more time that accrues between exercise slumps, spanning from weeks to months to years, the harder it is to get on up back on that wagon. And as much as you want to do it, and despite all of the profound benefits, the getting old syndrome seems to be in full effect. Or is something else potentially going on? Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Today, we are going to dive into this phenomena of why exercise seems to become increasingly difficult the less we do. And although one may blindly attribute this to a decrease in cardiovascular fitness or an increase in muscle atrophy, aka breakdown, there actually happens to be something else going on. So we're going to review some new and very interesting data on the topic, talk about muscle as it pertains to present day health and long-term longevity, and as always, talk about how you can get your flow going again. Hopefully that wink makes sense by the end of this. If not, I don't know what to tell you. Because let's be honest. Have you ever heard of a 70-year-old being told by their doctor that they had too much muscle? And anyone know how old Arnold Schwarzenegger is? We'll figure that out later. First, let me remind you why exercise is cool for biological school and a straight up staple for longevity. The magic pill we all have. Exercise. I think by now it's safe to say there is no that was easy button when it comes to creating an optimal internal cellular and metabolic state that promotes present day health and long-term longevity. But if there was, the next best thing would be exercise, because it is a straight up longevity boosting beast of an intervention. It builds and preserves muscle mass, offsetting sarcopenia, or the natural deterioration of muscle as we age. It keeps us mobile and flexible, which are two overlooked but critical components to short-term health and long-term longevity. It also happens to be the best mood-boosting prescription there is, releasing natural endorphins, opioids, and cannabinoids that boost mood, reduce anxiety, decrease stress, and alleviate pain. It's also one of the best things we can do to preserve mitochondria health, boosting their efficiency, stimulating the creation of new energy-producing organelles, while cleaning up the weak, leaky, and damaged ones via a process called mitophagy. Going on, it may be one of the best things you can do for your heart by improving cardiovascular function, which, might I add, is inversely related with mortality. And when it comes to the brain, the party continues. It's been shown to activate neurons in the hippocampus, the learning and memory region of the brain, and acts as a potent stimulator of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a growth factor that promotes adult neurogenesis, aka the creation of new neurons, something that was thought not to be possible throughout most of history. It also reduces the risk of longevity liability numero uno, chronic inflammation. It makes our cells more glucose tolerant by improving insulin sensitivity. And we cannot forget its role in detoxifying the body, being one of the best stimulators of our natural detoxification system, the lymphatic system, which is heavily reliant on movement. But it also upregulates the secretion of sweat, as you probably know, and also turns on our cellular recycling program, autophagy. This list can literally go on and on, but hopefully you get the point. And I got good news for you. We have videos on all of these topics, which I will link in the show notes below. But moral of the story is, movement is medicine. Secret, longevity medicine. And the more often you do it, the better. Speaking of that, why is it so hard to do? Well, researchers at the University of Leeds looked into this very question and hypothesized that the answer may be centered around how much blood our respective muscle tissue gets. or doesn't get. Here they explored a relatively recently discovered protein called piezo-1, which acts as a blood flow sensor in endothelial cells, which make up our blood vessels, as well as a modulator of capillary density, which are the tiny vessels that are responsible for carrying blood to muscle. And they wanted to tease out how the deactivation of this protein played a role. And to do this, they turned to a mouse model. The study. For this experiment, scientists compared two groups of mice. Like always, a control group who went on with their little mouse lives, and a group whose piezo-1 levels had been disrupted. And for a 10-week period, researchers observed the mice's activity. Normal mice things, like walking, climbing, and efficiency on the running wheel. They also looked at different signatures of vascular function, such as nitric oxide levels and apoptosis, or cell death. So what did they find? First, there was a striking reduction in activity levels in the piezo-1 disrupted mice, suggesting that this protein had a substantial effect in sustaining normal physical activity. But why? Were they just not interested in exercise? Actually, no. There happened to be no difference in the amount of duration of exercise between the two groups. Instead, there were fewer running wheel revolutions per session and slower running speed, suggesting a lower ability to exercise rather than a lesser desire. In fact, the results suggest a 10-week disruption of the endothelial piezo-1 causes sustained depression of physical capability without altering desire for exercise, changing respiration, energy metabolism, cardiac function, skeletal muscle mass, or fiber type. Instead, all signs point to a blood flow issue, specifically a decline in capillaries to the skeletal muscle. This restricted blood flow, meaning activity became more difficult and reduced how much exercise is actually possible. Oh, but how does this translate to having normal piezo-1 expression and just not exercising? Well, the research group believes that a comparable situation arises when piezo-1 is normally expressed, but muscle inactivity reduces its activation due to reduced blood flow, aka suggesting that this happens naturally in the wild when lack of exercise becomes a habit. Damn. I guess what they say about not using it and losing it may be true. Okay, is anything else at play here? Well, it seems that nitric oxide has an important role as well. In the model, physical exercise stimulates blood flow, the piezo-1 sensor, and thus the endothelial nitric oxide synthase pathway, which increases the stability of the microvascular endothelium, preserving and potentially expanding microvascular architecture and blood volume to the muscle. All good things, and in return, increasing the muscle's performance. In fact, the endothelial cells of the piezo-1 silenced mice displayed an enhanced apoptosis induction, or an increase in age-related programmed cell death, suggesting that endothelial nitric oxide downregulation may be involved in the aging of the cell type. Well, that ain't cool. But since we're on the topic, what is the impact of all this on aging and longevity? There happens to be substantial evidence that capillary regression is a common feature of human aging. A feature that can be prevented and protected against with regular physical training, resulting in a slower decline in physical incapacity and overall slower onset of age-related diseases. Again, you'll never meet a 90-year-old who says they have too much muscle. But hopefully you do. Arnold's 74, by the way. And get this. Studies revealed that muscle is sensitive to reductions of greater than 10% of capillary flow. And reductions greater than this lead to a steep decline in muscle performance. What do you think the reduction was in this study we just reviewed? 20%. Yeah. Now, it's important to remember that mice are in fact not humans. And although we both like cheese and express this same piezo-1 pathway, mouse and human studies don't always translate one for one. However, animal research like this gives us good insights and hints. In this case, the hint is Blood flow may be at the core of why exercise gets harder and harder the less we do it. But as always, all hope is not lost. So what can you do? Listen, I'm gonna shoot you straight here. As you could have guessed, the utmost efficient solution is starting to move your badonkadonk again. The data suggests that when an individual attempts to return to pre-sedentary activity, microvascular perfusion and performance will be less than it previously was. Makes sense. However, through retraining, piezo-1 can be renewed, and the individual can gradually regain the original performance. So first and foremost, understand that it's gonna take a little time, especially if you've been sedentary for an extended period. This is a scenario where small daily or weekly micro steps performed consistently goes a long way. And starting can be as simple as a few 5-minute walks throughout the day. I mean, walking is the OG exercise of us humans. And it's also good for all of the reasons that we discussed to incorporate in some strength training as well, with a long-term goal of getting 3 to 4 sessions per week. And we just happen to have hundreds of workouts on the channel that you can check out, although they are targeted for more moderate to advanced level. So always adjust and modify to your fitness level. But there is no shortage of exercise content out there on YouTube and the interwebs, so find something that fits your fitness level and your goals. And remember rule number 1 of exercise: don't get hurt. But if you need some help or motivation to get going in general, this video, where we bridge the gap between motivation and discipline, may help as well. But what else can we do along with moving or removing the badonkadonk? There are also some ways to upregulate the aforementioned nitric oxide, a compound which dilates blood vessels and improves blood flow. I would say pretty relevant, right? So I like to focus on 2 easy ways to stimulate more of this. First, nasal breathing. Yep, breathing through your nose, as we've talked about quite a bit on this channel, drives a ton of health benefits, one of which is its nitric oxide stimulating effects. So try and use your natural breathing apparatus more frequently. I'll put some videos going deep on the topic down in the show notes. And next, you can explore nitric oxide boosting foods. Eating plenty of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and healthy protein foods can optimize nitric oxide levels while also promoting overall better health. This includes, but is certainly not limited to, foods such as beets, garlic, dark chocolate, leafy greens, citrus fruit, and grass-fed organic meats. Remember, you're playing the long game here, so reacclimate yourself in a slow and sustainable way. And if you want a little extra help with your reacclimation, you can always join our weekly health challenges, where we as a group slowly and sustainably introduce longevity-focused change, week by week, playing the long game together. So if you're interested, all the links for that will be in the description below. And I think I can confidently say this week is going to be all about moving that badonkadonk. So, I mean, you might as well get a head start.